Good afternoon, 9x1. I hope you're doing well. I had actually hoped to teach this as a live lesson, as I was planning to be on site at school today, but unfortunately, due to some car problems, I wasn't able to make it in. And teaching from home, I cannot guarantee an uninterrupted lesson, as I have a 4-year-old who tends to get a little bit excited sometimes, especially when the door is closed and he wonders what his father's doing inside the room. So today's lesson, as you can see, has been pre-recorded once again. I hope you are well and healthy and continue to be safe. And for today's lesson, we are going to finish the Cask of Amontillado. Now, I say finish, we're going to finish the reading, but we have quite a bit more work to do with it, and then to link it back to the Telltale Heart. There's some very interesting stuff going on, and we're going to explore that together next week. Remember to please finish your ending of the story, which should be done by now since you're going to see the actual ending. And it should be interesting for you to compare what you thought might happen at the end with what actually happens in Poe's version of the story. So, without further ado, let's get on with the reading. "Pass your hand," I said, "over the wall. You cannot help feeling the nitre. Indeed, it is very damp. Once more, let me implore you to return. No? Then I must positively leave you. But I must first render you all the little attentions in my power." "The Amontillado!" ejaculated my friend, not yet recovered from his astonishment. "True," I replied. "The Amontillado." As I said these words, I busied myself among the pile of bones of which I had before spoken. Throwing them aside, I soon uncovered a quantity of building stone and mortar. With these materials, and with the aid of my trowel, I began vigorously to wall up the entrance of the niche. I had scarcely laid the first tier of the masonry when I discovered that the intoxication of Fortunato had in a great measure worn off. The earliest indication I had of this was a low moaning cry from the depth of the recess. It was not the cry of a drunken man. There was then a long and obstinate silence. I laid the second tier, and the third, and the fourth, and then I heard the furious vibrations of the chain. The noise lasted for several minutes, during which, that I might hearken to it with the more satisfaction, I ceased my labours and sat down upon the bones. When at last the clanking subsided, I resumed the trowel, and finished without interruption the 5th, the 6th, and the 7th tier. The wall was now nearly upon a level with my breast. I again paused, and holding the flambeau over the mason-work, threw a few feeble rays upon the figure within. A succession of loud and shrill screams, bursting suddenly from the throat of the chained form, seemed to thrust me violently back. For a brief moment I hesitated. I trembled. Unsheathing my rapier, I began to grope with it about the recess. But the thought of an instant reassured me. I placed my hand upon the solid fabric of the catacombs, and felt satisfied. I reapproached the wall. I replied to the yells of him who clamoured. I re-echoed. I aided. I surpassed them in volume and in strength. I did this, and the clamourer grew still. It was now midnight, and my task was drawing to a close. I had completed the 8th, the 9th, and the 10th tier. I had finished a portion of the last in the 11th. There remained but a single stone to be fitted and plastered in. I struggled with its weight. I placed it partially in its destined position. But now there came from out the niche a low laugh that erected the hairs upon my head. It was succeeded by a sad voice, which I had difficulty in recognizing as that of the noble Fortunato. The voice said, "Ha, ha, ha! A very good joke indeed, an excellent jest. We shall have many a rich laugh about it at the palazzo over our wine." "The Amontillado," I said. Yes, the Amontillado. But is it not getting late? Will not they be awaiting us at the palazzo? The Lady Fortunato and the rest? Let us be gone. Yes, I said. Let us be gone. For the love of God, mon trésor! Yes, I said. For the love of God. But to these words I hearkened in vain for a reply. I grew impatient. I called aloud, Fortunato! No answer. I called again, Fortunato! No answer still. I thrust a torch through the remaining aperture and let it fall within. There came forth in reply only a jingling of the bells. My heart grew sick on account of the dampness of the catacombs. I hastened to make an end of my labour. I forced the last stone into its position. I plastered it up. Against the new masonry I re-erected the old rampart of bones. For the half of a century no mortal has disturbed them. In pace requiescat. And so there we go. Poe's chilling tale of revenge and burying someone alive. I hope you enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing how your ending compared or contrasted with this one. You now have a worksheet of questions to complete with some vocabulary to look up as well, and this will carry us into next week's lessons, where we will continue to look at these deranged and unreliable protagonists and narrators to see if there might be an extra layer to these stories that might not seem obvious at first. Just to leave you something to think about, perhaps these stories aren't just about horrible people doing terrible things, but they're also about human psychology and the human unconscious. What if in the telltale heart, the I of the old man stands in for the capital letter I, as in yourself, the individual? And what if in this story, what he's burying isn't really another person, but is actually himself? I wonder what that means. Let's find out next week. In the meantime, good luck with your work. Stay healthy, keep safe, and I look forward to seeing you next week, where hopefully I'll be able to arrange a proper live lesson with you. Goodbye.